This morning, it's the dawn of a new day.
It's time for a new approach. We're not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump. We're here to report on him.
I searched for a way to respond appropriately, and I called on my 10 years as a litigator in addition to my now 20 as a journalist, and I think I found the perfect phrase, go f*** yourselves.
Megyn Kelly, formerly of Fox News, now great big podcaster, responding to Joe and Mika. Joe and Mika and their meeting with Donald Trump so they could grovel and snivel and suck up to the guy that they called Hitler and a threat to democracy. You know how they are. Were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. And Megyn Kelly summed it up there, I think. That's making the rounds everywhere on Al Gore's amazing internet. The lovely and talented Megyn Kelly, who I like very much, used to go on her TV show on the Fox News Channel. Always liked Megyn very much, and she's fun and smart, and she's out there telling the truth. We need more people out there telling the truth. Speaking of which, I was talking to Frank, calling from Chicago a little while ago. He said, he called and he talked to Jeff on the telephone. He said, why do you say that the Democrats are anti-Jewish? Why, there are 34 Jewish Democrats in the Congress. And I say, yeah, but they're not very good Jews or very good congressmen or women, for that matter. But, Frank, since you brought it up, a couple of more items have popped just in the last hour. Amazing stuff. U.S. vetoes another UN Security Council resolution seeking Gaza ceasefire. This is the news out of the Middle East here. Wait a minute, the U.S. vetoed? There was a UN Security Council resolution seeking a ceasefire in Gaza, and the U.S. vetoed that? Isn't that kind of crazy? I think it is. And 72% of Jewish college students feel threatened, feel unsafe on campus, all because of Democrats. That's the thing. Furthermore, the Free Beacon here in Washington, great newspaper, the Washington Free Beacon. The headline today is, "In Parting Shot to Jewish State," that would be Israel. I know that because there is only one. Parting shot to Jewish state. Amazingly, the Biden-Harris administration sanctions Israel, punishes Israel, pours millions into Palestinian coffers, or coffins, if you prefer, because they love their coffins. So wait a minute. They're sanctioning Israel and rewarding the people they call the Palestinians, who are genocidal anti-Semites whose charter calls for exterminating the state of Israel and all of the people living therein. Isn't that amazing? The Biden-Harris administration unveiled sweeping new sanctions on Israeli Jews just days after it awarded another $230 million in taxpayer funds to the Palestinians. The back-to-back announcements signal that diplomatic relations between Israel and the outgoing White House will continue to sour until President-elect Donald Trump retakes office next year. Speaking of which, today is the 20th of November, right? And that means January 20th will be Inauguration Day for President Trump. That's 2 months. Technically, going by this measure, November 20th, December 20th, January 20th, 2 months from Inauguration Day, about 60 days, and the Democrats are going to do everything they can to disrupt and to steal. You know how they are. Maybe they'll use their Venezuelan gang friends to... What do you think? Because the front page lead story of the Washington Times today is... Trinidad gang infiltrates region. D.C., Northern Virginia, likely to feel influence as more Venezuelans arrive. And you know what a Democrat does at this point? It's not like every Venezuelan is a gang member. No, but all the gang members are, and there are a lot of them. And just to cite one of them on trial for murdering Lake and Riley, 22-year-old nursing student in Atlanta, Georgia. The trial is ongoing now. How many of those are okay? And in Maryland, a mother of 5 who was murdered by a Venezuelan illegal alien while she was out for a little exercise, Rachel Morin. How many dead women do the Democrats need before they open their eyes just a little bit? Amazing, amazing stuff. So, yeah, Frank, I do point out the fact that there is abundant evidence to suggest or to make perfectly clear that the Democrat Party is a menace to the Jewish people in the 21st century. They're on the side of the bad guys. They're funding Iran, which is funding Hamas. When the Democrats aren't funding Hamas, the Iranians are funding Hamas with money that the Democrats made sure to free up and get to the Ayatollahs. They're also funding, Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Houthis, who are all attacking Israel. And where are the Democrats? They're sending hundreds of millions more to a literal terrorist group whose goal is actual genocide of the Jewish people. And they don't know what to do with all the money that the Democrats have given them. True of the Iranians, too. Isn't that amazing? Well, maybe not amazing, but at least appalling. At least appalling. All right, it is Mailbag Day. It's Mailbag Day here on the Chris Plante Show. And we still got to get to the transgender Democrat Capitol Hill fight. The Democrats are fighting for more transgender members of Congress because mental illness is their bag. It really is. They're quite amazing, these people. Funneling hundreds of millions more to Hamas and imposing sanctions on Israel because that's what they're doing. All right, now mailbag. Let's go to the mailbag. Should I use the whole names? I guess the whole names are okay because they send in the whole names. Kevin Blair. I'm always a little hesitant to use full names because it's a crazy world out there with crazy Democrats. Says, do you believe that we will ever be out of debt again? I see the $36 trillion as a magnesium fire right now, a difficult to control chemical fire that can spread like nobody's business, a magnesium fire. I looked at we are $35.9 trillion in debt. And as I've pointed out, in fact, I think I even pointed out earlier today on this very radio broadcast, that if we were to start paying off the national debt, which we're not doing, thanks to the Democrats and the Republicans, we should be trying to get our fiscal house in order, our financial house in order, and nobody is really doing anything. President Trump is talking about trying to get a handle on things. First, you have to get 1 year's spending under control instead of adding another $1 trillion this year or $2 trillion this year to the national debt, which we're passing along to the next generation. And it'll just be harder and harder for them to pay it off, and it will lead to the biggest economic collapse in the history of the world, which is the left-wing project for the United States of America and for capitalism and the Cloward and Piven plan. But as I said earlier, if we did start paying off the national debt right now at a very modest rate of $1 a second, $60 a minute, it would take us more than 1 million years to pay off our national debt. And Kevin, I've got to say, I see no indication anywhere that we're even talking about getting our debt under control, even our spending, our annual deficits under control, which is, that would be a good place to start, annual deficits. And if there were responsible adults in charge of Congress, I think that would be a topic of conversation. I would certainly make it a topic of conversation. So the question is, do you believe we'll ever get out of debt again? Let me say I'd like to remain optimistic, but it's difficult when it comes to the now darn near $36 trillion national debt. These are unimaginable numbers. $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. Devil Dog. Thank you, Kevin. Devil Dog 0231. I'll just go with Devil Dog. Why are Mo and Jika, that's, of course, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski on MSDNC and Morning Joke, and if you just flip their first letters, they're Mo and Jika. Why are Mo and Jika meeting with Hitler? Hitler in quotation marks. And why isn't there outrage that they're meeting with such a fascist dictator and trying to open communication with him? Does that, according to the commie playbook, make Mo and Jika fascist Hitler sympathizers?
And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Yeah, and she says that with sternness, like a German. That's pretty amusing. Devil Dog, they're hypocrites, they're clowns, they're pathetic. There is a lot of talk flying around in financial circles and in media circles about the parent company selling off MSNBC, probably to the Chinese communists or maybe to Vladimir Putin or something. You know, like Al Gore sold off his current TV to the Arabs, to Muslims, who turned it into whatever they turned it into. And remarkable stuff. Now, Devil Dog says, you know, why are they meeting with the guy they call Hitler? And does that make them fascist sympathizers? You know, fascist simps, like old commie simps. Yes, it makes them, according to their own definition, of course, it makes them fascist sympathizers, just if they believed the things that they were saying. But here's the thing, and I think you know this, Devil Dog. They were lying the whole time when they were calling Trump Hitler and a threat to democracy. And they're liars, and they lie pathologically. Psychopathologically, they lie. They lie like nobody's business. And yes, based on their own use of language, they would have to categorize themselves as fascist Hitler simps. So, yes, I think is the end. And why isn't there more outrage? Because were it not for double standards, liberals would have no standards at all. They couldn't be bigger hypocrites if they took courses in becoming bigger hypocrites. But that's who they are, and that's why we disdain them. It's not why we love them. It's why we disdain them, because we know what they really are. J.D. Leary asks, who's the most impressive leader you met while working at the Pentagon? Or who did you meet and knew immediately this guy, this girl is going places? Well, I've got to say I met probably in particular naval officers when they were lieutenant commanders or even lieutenants and have gone on to put stars on their shoulders and things. Not names that you would recognize, I think, but some people, and you see that they're smart and they just seem to be a cut above and they move along. But I met a lot of amazing people in my 10 years, my decade at the Pentagon. I started there when Les Aspin was the Secretary of Defense. He got in big trouble and had to resign. He was a Democrat House member, then Secretary of Defense. And, I a little bit of Dick Cheney when he was Defense Secretary. Now he's gone over to the dark side, kind of hilariously. William Sebastian Cohen, who was a nub, a Democrat Secretary of Defense, but a Republican senator from Maine. Not very impressive. William the Refrigerator Perry was Secretary of Defense, another one. And he was a nice man, but didn't have a lot of business being Secretary of Defense. I've got to say, Donald Rumsfeld, I was always very impressed with Donald Rumsfeld in the hallways, talking to him over lunch, flying on airplanes, going places. Rumsfeld was always just great, very straightforward, very blunt, no nonsense. And he'd come back and talk to a few members of the press traveling with him and stuff. And a good guy. Always liked him very much. General Peter Pace, a Marine Corps general, I thought he was a pretty amazing guy. He got in some trouble later, a little trouble. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Hugh Shelton, rompin' stompin' Army, life-taken Special Forces guy from the Vietnam War. And I liked him very much. I liked him a lot, I've got to say. And there were a lot of people I liked and a lot of people I admired there, but most of them you wouldn't know their names because they were regular people, And there was a Clinton Secretary of the Air Force, Sheila Widnall, who was a college professor, had no business being a secretary of the Air Force or any other department, but she was a woman. So, hey, the first woman. She was a college, university person. Perfectly nice person and reasonably intelligent person. And she got me into the cockpit of an F-16 over lunch one day, so I thank Sheila Widnall for that. But, over 10 years, a great many people, interesting people, accomplished people, serious people, and then, some Democrats, too, truth be told. I have one more mailbag question to get to, but I'm going to have to get to it in just a couple of minutes. You know that nothing delivers comfort and joy this holiday season quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha steaks. This year, you can skip the holiday hassle and save 50% off gourmet gifts across the entire OmahaSteaks.com website. With 5 generations of experience at Omaha Steaks, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it incredibly easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. $89.99. Growing up in Chicago, I always envied my neighbors when they got their deliveries of Omaha Steaks, and now I have them delivered to my house. It's great. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off the entire website at omahasteaks.com. Plus, because you listen to our humble radio show, you get another $30 off with the promo code PLANT. And, listen to this, another $30 reward card when you shop early. That's $30, and 50% off. All right? That's at OMAHA, Omaha Steaks. And that's great stuff. $30 off with the promo code PLANT. A minimum purchase may apply. Visit omahasteaks.com for details. Yes, sir. All right, one more mailbag question. Then trannies on Capitol Hill in the Congress, because the Democrats, they want to play Duck, Duck, Goose sometime real soon. And we're at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Boy, the train moves fast around here. I can say, based on our mailbag question about the national debt from Kevin, saying, I see the $36 trillion debt as a magnesium fire right now. And I looked at the national debt clock this morning, and it was $35.9 trillion. And now it's over $36 trillion. Now it's $36,014,798,680,000 because it's climbing like that, and nobody's doing anything about it, which is important. Now, the last mailbag question, before I get to a little news. No question, I just wanted you to know, while I voted while wearing my favorite Remember Normal shirt, I got only one dirty look in red upstate New York. The Remember Normal shirt. You got to get your Remember Normal shirts and coffee mugs. Got to start the Remember Normal movement. And by the way, the illegal alien news update, the illegal alien Jose Ibarra, a gang member from Venezuela that the Democrats waved into the country, moved to New York. Then the taxpayers bought him a plane ticket from New York to Atlanta. And then he murdered Laken Riley while trying to rape her. He has been found guilty in a courtroom in Georgia on all 10 counts of murdering 22-year-old nursing student Laken Riley. And now, yay, we get to pay for his incarceration for the next 70 years. Because of Democrats and Democrat policies, Laken Riley should be alive. All right. I got to tell you, They give me so much stuff. I wish they'd stop it. Stop killing people, stop the illegal alien thing, stop the gangs, stop the drug trafficking, stop the child sex trafficking. The party of Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. No, we got a Bill Clinton soundbite today, as a matter of fact. Womp, womp, womp. Yes, sir. All right, the transgender movement on Capitol Hill that the Democrats are pushing there, they're quite something, aren't they? Boy, oh boy. All right, let's get to some of the audio from the Democrats' transgender Capitol Hill push, because they have a man who says he's a woman who was elected to the House of Representatives out of the state of Delaware, which is Joe Biden's state, of course. And boy, these people, can I just say these people? They are truly something. Also, did you see President Trump yesterday with Elon Musk for the big launch of the SpaceX rocket? The biggest rocket ever. It's quite remarkable. And Trump was hanging out with Elon Musk, apparently. Remarkable things going on. Also, there are meetings going on Capitol Hill today and I believe for the rest of the week involving the soon-to-be Vice President of the United States, Senator J.D. Vance, meeting on the Hill along with some of President Trump's nominees, like the Attorney General nominee, former Congressman Matt Gaetz, and we got Congressman Collins and Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense, the Secretary of Defense, and the Democrats are trying to stop everybody because they don't want normal people who served in the Army and are now news guys who are going to be Secretary of Defense to try to clean things up. They want somebody from inside the Washington apparatus, from inside the corrupt machine. They want people that know that it's really all about getting rich and creating generational wealth for your family, because that's why people come to Washington. There are trillions and trillions of dollars here. And now our debt is more than $36 trillion. And they want to get a piece of that, most of these people that come to Washington. It's kind of better to have people that are already rich come to Washington because they're not thinking, oh, yeah, well, I'll take this government job for now, but then I'll get all these corporate jobs after as long as I play my cards right and we'll get rich. Remarkable stuff. But J.D. Vance meeting on the Hill with senators who will be voting on President Trump's nominees for cabinet positions and other government positions. And J.D. Vance is walking him around, and there's some pretty good stuff going on there, I've got to say, because J.D. Vance is a solid guy. And even Lindsey Graham, who has an X account, sent out this morning, I had a very good meeting with President Trump's nominee for Attorney General, Matt Gaetz, and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance. I am committed to allowing the process to go forward in a manner consistent with past practices and fundamental fairness. Well, don't bring fairness into it. That could ruin everything. Because, the Democrats, they don't like fairness. They're against fairness, most certainly. This process will not be a rubber stamp, nor will it be driven by a lynch mob, which is the Democrats are the lynch mob. And he is pushing back on the idea that the Republicans will be a rubber stamp. Now, again, Pete Hegseth, I've come to the conclusion, is a very interesting choice for Secretary of Defense as a soldier and officer, Minnesota National Guard, Bronze Star medals, 2 of them, serving in Iraq, serving in Afghanistan, and doing a tour at Guantanamo Bay as an Army officer. Then he became a news guy. And one of the things President Trump obviously values is someone who can walk up to the podium, to the cameras, and make the case in a cogent fashion. And choosing a now former Congressman Sean Duffy, married to Rachel Campos Duffy, who is a Fox News anchor. There are a number of Fox News links to his picks. Sean Duffy, again, former Republican congressman from Wisconsin, also appears and has appeared for some time on Fox News, even as a member of Congress, and now as a former member of Congress. But setting that aside, between Matt Gaetz and Stephanie, Grisham, Stephanie, I'm blanking on her name. But we've got all these great picks for the, Congresswoman out of New York, who's going to be the UN ambassador. But they're making the rounds on Capitol Hill, and even Lindsey Graham is saying, my record is clear. I tend to defer to presidential cabinet choices unless the evidence suggests disqualification. That seems fair enough, actually. I fear the process surrounding the Gaetz nomination is turning into an angry mob. It certainly is. And unverified allegations are being treated as if they are true. Well, that's what the Democrats do, because the smear matters more than the truth. I have seen this movie before, Lindsey Graham says. I would urge all of my Senate colleagues, particularly Republicans, not to join the lynch mob and give the process a chance to move forward. After years of being investigated by the Department of Justice, no charges were brought against Matt Gaetz. This is something we should all remember. It's something I've been remembering for the last several days. And again, a great piece in The Federalist by the wonderful Molly Hemingway, which lays a lot of this out as well, that I shared portions of that with you yesterday. Lindsey Graham says, I would also urge my colleagues to go back to a time-tested process, receive relevant information, and give the nominee a chance to make their case as to why they should be confirmed. This standard, which I have long adhered to, has served the Senate and country well. You know, the fact that you even have to say any of that out loud is a little bit ridiculous. That, you know, wait a minute, you want to give somebody a fair shake in Washington? Wait, he was investigated for years in a partisan investigation by the Democrats in the crooked Justice Department under crooked Merrick Garland, and they dropped the whole thing, and the crooked FBI targeting Catholics and Republicans, and they dropped the whole thing. But that's not a part of the discussion, isn't it? And I know that we have audio on this very thing. Now, there was a good moment yesterday. Number 3, President Trump was walking, and reporters were standing there because he's always available to the press, unlike Democrats, unlike Joe Biden, unlike Kamala Harris. And Trump, a reporter yelled at him about the Gates nomination. Are you reconsidering the Gates nomination?
Mr. President, are you reconsidering the nomination of Matt Gaetz?
No. And he was still walking, but he turned to the nice reporter lady. And because the question was asked, because he's under such withering attack by the left, they would put Venezuelan gang members in there. By the way, we are standing by for the sentencing of the illegal alien Venezuelan gang member that murdered Laken Riley and has been found guilty now of murdering Laken Riley, and I will bring that to you as soon as it happens. A congressman, a Democrat congressman from Connecticut by the name of Jim Himes, and he was on the left-wing radical television, fake journalism, fake news outlet, and they're talking about, that terrible, horrible Matt Gaetz that was investigated, as Lindsey Graham said, forever, before the Justice Department dropped the whole thing, knowing that there was nothing there. Democrat from Connecticut, Congressman Jim Himes.
The Republican senator who votes to confirm Matt Gaetz or Robert Kennedy or Tulsi Gabbard will be remembered by history as somebody who completely gave up their responsibility to Donald Trump.
What? I'm sorry, RFK Jr. of the John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy family, of the assassinated the guy who said that his father and his uncle would find the Democrat Party unrecognizable and left the Democrat Party. Again, did you see this photograph the other day of Donald Trump, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and Elon Musk, the 4 of them together, standing there together? And someone noted, hey, look, 4 former Democrats. Now, that should inform dim-witted, corrupt people like Jim Himes. And they're trying to label Tulsi Gabbard as a Russian asset, from Hillary Clinton to Debbie Wasaman Schnitz, Democrat member of Congress and former DNC chair.
Tulsi Gabbard is considered to be essentially, by most assessments, a Russian asset, and would be the most.
Is that how you consider her? Is that what you consider her?
Oh, yes. There's no question. I consider her someone who is likely a Russian asset.
She should be sued for $148 million, like Rudolph Giuliani was, and found guilty in a crooked Atlanta courtroom. And now he's turning over his grandfather's watch and his vintage automobile and his apartment in New York in a co-op to 2 women who are allegedly disparaged. Isn't that amazing? Tulsi Gabbard is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Reserve who has served in combat zones, a former Democrat member of the House of Representatives from Hawaii. Robert F. Kennedy, obviously a lifelong Democrat. But when you stop singing from the sheet music, they'll burn your house down and kill your children. Oh, wait, it's Republicans that'll kill your children, right? I saw that on the TV. Amazing. Debbie Wasaman Schnitz smearing the former Democrat member of the House of Representatives and current lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves. And they smear and they slander. And they don't care what the truth is. And Lindsey Graham is like, hey, wait a minute. Gaetz was investigated, and they didn't find anything, and they dropped the case, and they spent a lot of money and a lot of time, and they're fake witnesses and all this stuff. And then on MSDNC, Cheryl Lynn Eiffel talking about Pete Hegseth, the Army veteran Fox News anchor.
The Secretary of Defense nominee, Peter Hegseth. This is someone who, is known to be a white supremacist, known to be an extremist.
Sue her. Sue her for $148 million for slander because she is a slanderous, expletive deleted, lying about that. Oh, no, he's got a tattoo. And he's a known white supremacist. That is a slanderous, villainous lie. And the cousin of the late Gwen Ifill, Cheryl Lynn Ifill, brought on just because her cousin was a news reporter, and race and gender. And that is just world-class slander right there. Former Republican, and actually when that photo was sent out of the four former Democrats, Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, friends sent it from Newsmax, and I sent them back a picture of me and Ronald Reagan shaking hands many years ago. And I said, oh, look, two more former Democrats. The Democrat Party should die. But here's Adam Kinzinger. He joined the Democrat Party after leaving the Republican Party.
You were talking about this with things like vaccines, and I'm like, honestly, the Dark Ages, if they were alive, would be looking at this time period and going, you guys are losing your mind.
If the Dark Ages were alive. I don't know how that works exactly, but I have to get back to him on that. Just amazing stuff. Now, Caroline Leavitt is lovely and talented. Everybody keeps saying she's 27 years old. Like her age is very important or something. She's an adult woman and an intelligent adult woman and a very attractive intelligent adult woman, and she'll make an excellent White House press secretary in just starting 2 months from today. Inauguration Day, January 20th. 2 months from today, Caroline Leavitt.
We're not shy of the hostile media. We've dealt with that now in the campaign for the last year. Nobody does it better than President Trump. This election taught us a lot of things, but one of those things is that the American people are no longer buying the lies from the legacy media, and Americans are digesting their news in various different forms.
Now, they're very upset that social media is more popular than mainstream, formerly known as mainstream media, television news. But since we're talking about the news media and how crooked they are, Jennifer Rubin, affectionately known as Gums, they call her Gums Rubin at the Washington Post. And she is a Washington Post writer, a longtime journalist, award-winning journalist. And she was, in a video posted, I think it's a Washington Post event, Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post. This is the rhetoric we get from them.
For people who don't get political news, who never pick up a newspaper, who never turn on CNN, who never even bother with Fox News, those people really have no idea what's going on. And that means we have to bend over backwards, not to suck up to these people, not to make excuses for them, but at least to communicate the basic facts.
Yeah, well, let's sell MSNBC, which is apparently on the chopping block now. CNN is laying people off by the plane load and cutting the salaries of their overpaid bankers. And amazing stuff. Jennifer Rubin, Washington Post.
You can't talk broad themes. You have to boil it down to nuts and bolts, and you have to be pithy. What do I mean by pithy? How about this? Republicans want to kill your kids. It's actually true.
It's actually true. That's the Washington Post. How about this? Republicans want to kill your kids. The RNC should sue her for $148 million for slander, and she should, according to Hillary Clinton's misinformation rule, she should probably go to prison. Really amazing stuff. They're going to kill your kids. That reminded us, of course, of Michael Beschloss, the presidential historian and media maven, who said the same thing a couple of years ago when the Republicans might win over the Congress in the midterm elections.
What was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed. We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
These are supposed to be serious adults. These are credentialed adults, all the best schools. The most esteemed organizations, highly paid professionals, respected, even revered professionals, the Jennifer Rubins and Michael Beschlosses of the world, who say these mentally ill things, these slanderous, insane, crazy things And I'm sorry, Rudy Giuliani was sued for $148 million and forced to hand over his grandfather's watch. Hey, Jennifer, I want your grandfather's watch. My lawyers are coming. I don't really have lawyers.
How about this? Republicans want to kill your kids. It's actually true.
So many things to get to. Lindsey Graham has put out a statement, a letter, asking the 51 signatories, the felons that tampered in our presidential election, ran an information operation against the United States of America, starting with penitentiary face Brennan. Lindsey Graham asks the 51 former intelligence officials if their opinion has changed on the Hunter Biden laptop. They should literally be arrested. You know that they tampered in our election like criminals from a third world intelligence agency. And that's because the left has taken over our intelligence agency, so it is a third world intelligence agency. By the way, the U.S. Joe Biden has closed our embassy in Kiev, Ukraine, over potential significant air attacks as tensions with Russia rise. And as Putin is saying, World War III is around the corner. And they've changed the nuclear doctrine, the Russians have. Say the threshold for using nuclear weapons is much lower. And isn't Joe Biden wasn't he supposed to be the antidote to the chaos president that was Donald Trump? Who's the chaos president now with the illegal aliens and the murders and the gangs and the drug overdoses and the war in Europe and nuclear weapons and World War III? And he's funding the Palestinian genocidal Palestinian death cult and sanctioning Israel. And I'm sorry, Trump is the agent of chaos? Why is that? And Pete Hegseth is a problem, and Matt Gaetz, they're the problem. Isn't that amazing? And Seton Motley, my friend Seton Motley, also saying, look, if Tulsi Gabbard is an actual Russian asset, why hasn't a single Democrat moved to court-martial her for being an agent of a hostile foreign power? And the reason is they're lying, and they know that they're lying, right? And they're all transgender. Are they all transgender now? Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Now, how many embassies has Joe Biden closed? I think he's closed 8 or 9 embassies around the world as president, evacuated our embassies. Now we're closing and evacuating the embassy in Kiev because Joe Biden's done such a good job. Remember, the media told us he was a foreign policy expert. Of course, they also tell us that Republicans, the pro-life party, want to kill all your kids.